Hello, I'm Tamara Banks, and welcome to Denver Decides. This community partnership is dedicated to accessible and transparent elections. The partnership includes the League of Women Voters of Denver, Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, and is presented by Denver 8 TV. Our goal today is to present a candidate forum as we gear up for the election on Tuesday, November 7th. Among other offices, this election includes the candidates hoping to become a member of the Denver Public School Board. This forum is for those seeking the position from District 3. That district includes Central and East Central Denver. Our format is a pretty standard one. The candidates will have timed opening and closing statements. That will be followed by rounds of questions that have been submitted by organizers of the forum, as well as several DPS students who are members of the Mayor's Youth Commission. All candidates will answer all questions, and all of their responses will be timed. Our timers are out front where our candidates can see them. So let's begin by meeting the candidates vying to become a member of the Denver Public School Board from District 3. A reminder to our studio audience, please hold your applause until all candidates have been introduced. The candidates are standing left to right, facing the audience, in the order that their names will appear on the November ballot. So beginning at my immediate left is Carrie Olson. And to her left is Mike Johnson. Let's welcome our candidates. And one more note to the candidates. On behalf of the forum organizers and audiences here tonight and viewers at home, we sincerely urge you to be honest, direct, and forthright to help voters distinguish one candidate from another. We'll begin with 1-minute opening statements from each candidate. We will proceed in ballot order with these statements. So once again, starting at my immediate left is Carrie Olson. We'll begin with you in your opening statement.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and proud to be running for Denver Public Schools Board of Education. Tonight you will hear from a lawyer and you will hear from a teacher. You will hear how we differ in areas that are critical to the success of our students, not only in District 3, but in all of Denver Public Schools. Our current school board has gone full steam ahead with a reform agenda without pausing to think of some of the unintended consequences that are affecting our students today and their teachers and our schools. Increased segregation, an increase in high-stakes testing, a high teacher turnover rate, and a choice system that leaves some families with no true choice are chipping away at our public education system. To solve these problems, we need a teacher. We need someone who's used to responding to problems in real time. My 33 years in the classroom and my PhD in education have given me the experience and the insight to provide a unique perspective that's lacking in our current board. I am Carrie Olson, a Denver Public Schools teacher running in District 3, and it's time to put an educator in the Board of Education.
Thank you, Carrie. Mike?
Oh, is that, tell me. So let's wait. Yeah. Okay, tell me when.
You ready?
Ready? Hi, I'm Mike Johnson, and I'm your representative on the Denver School Board from District 3. I'm on the school board because I'm passionate about education. Education's personal for me. I'm the first in my family to go to college, working my way through undergraduate school and Georgetown Law School with need-based scholarships and loans. But more importantly, I am passionate about education because I'm a dad. Being a dad for the last 24 years is the most important thing I've ever done in my life. My 3 wonderful daughters, Sarah, Abby, and Corley, all received excellent educations in Denver Public Schools, but making that happen required a lot of hard work from their mother, Carol, and myself. I ran for the school board to be an advocate for you, to make it easier for other Denver parents to obtain a great education for their kids. I'm running for re-election because I want to make sure that your school board always puts the interests of Denver's students and parents first.
All right. Thank you so much, candidates. Now on to our first round of questions. We will start first with Mike, and the question is, what are your thoughts on the ethics of school board candidates receiving significant campaign contributions from out of state, from political action committees, or from charter corporations, for example, Democrats for Education Reform?
I'm glad you asked that question. I made a commitment at the beginning of my campaign to not accept corporate money, to not accept PAC money, to not accept money from PAC-like small issue donor committees, to only accept money from human beings, individuals that I can sit across from the table with and talk about education issues. I've done that. I've never accepted a contribution from anyone other than a human being. I'm in favor of campaign limitations on contributions to school board campaigns. I've only received a few contributions from out of state, from friends and family. I thought I had more friends out of state. Actually, I've only received 4 contributions, less than $1,000 from people out of state.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Carrie?
I'm running as a grassroots candidate. The only large donation I've received is from the Teachers Union, $5,000, but I've been a union member for the last 33 years in paying dues. All the rest of my donations and all the parts of my campaign have been funded by friends and family. Again, some of my out-of-state friends and some of my family back in Minnesota have donated. I jokingly say when my mother understands what I'm doing, she'll send me a check, hopefully. But I think to make sure that our campaigns stay fair, it's important for us to understand how all of our campaigns are funded, and no part of my campaign is funded by any money from any super PACs. And it also levels the playing field when we only accept donations and fund any part of our campaign from money that's local.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. Now on to round 2. And Carrie, we'll start with your answer first. The question is, what do you see as the biggest challenge within your district during the past 2 years? What has been or will be your plan of action to resolve the issue?
Thank you. From knocking door to door and from talking to voters in District 3, one of the things that I've discovered, many parents are concerned about the choice system in Denver Public Schools. I think of the group of grandmothers that I met with, and as they started talking, they realized all of their children are going to different schools and they're not in the same neighborhood anymore. As we know from the report, the white students in our district are increasingly doing better in our Denver Public Schools, which is wonderful, but they're the families that are able to take care of choice. Many families that I hear from would like to have strong neighborhood schools near them so they can walk their children to the schools, so that they can participate in the community and they can have community events at their school. That's one of the issues that I've heard. So one of the things that I'd like to see is having strong choices within the neighborhood so we're not driving far across town to get our children to school, and making sure that our neighborhood schools are well supported and well funded in arts by helping our teachers and making sure that they have the types of choices that parents are looking for in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
The biggest issue that cuts across everyone in my district when I go door to door is having great schools in our neighborhoods and having options for kids who need options to fit in. We have great neighborhood schools in District 3. We have the best schools, I'd say, in the neighborhood, the best neighborhood schools in the city. We also have the broadest range of options any place in the state, maybe any place in the country in the public school system. I've spent hundreds of hours in the schools in our neighborhood. I've visited every one of them at least 4 or 5 times in my last 4 years on the board, making sure they have the resources, making sure they have the supports from downtown they need, and helping them solve problems. I'll continue to do that. That's my #1 priority. And I'm also working hard to make sure that we have options of all kinds that are located within a convenient trip from the kids in our neighborhood so they all have access to them.
Thank you. So on to round 3, and in this round, we're going to introduce a special guest. We have Eric Webb, who is a member of the Mayor's Youth Commission. Come on up, Eric, and you get to ask this question. And we'll be starting with Mike to answer first.
Thank you, Tamara. What action should be taken to attract and retain more teachers of color for DPS?
Eric, that's a great question. One of the issues we have in Denver Public Schools is that there's a real mismatch between the students in our classroom, about 70% of whom are students of color, and only about 30% of our teachers are teachers of color. We've tried to attract teachers from all over the country. We've been somewhat successful on that, but we need to do more. We have two exciting initiatives that I think can make a big difference. We're trying to grow our own. Our paras are way more diverse than our teaching corps. We're supporting paras to get their teachers, to get teacher education and come back and teach in our school. We have a program underway right now doing that. We also have a career and technical education course in our high schools to identify DPS students who are interested in teaching, to help them through school so they can come back and teach in our schools, and the kids in the schools can actually wind up being the teachers of tomorrow.
Thank you for the question. I think it begins with us teachers recruiting students and mentoring kids who look like they want to become teachers and helping them find their way. I also would like to work with more university partnerships, such as Volunteers in Partnership from the University of Denver. They come into our schools. They're kids who have graduated from schools in Denver Public Schools, and they come back and mentor and help kids find their career path. I also think we need to work with human resources to make sure that we're fair in our recruiting practices. I'd like to see more loan forgiveness and tuition reimbursements for people who'd like to go into teaching so we can attract and retain the brightest teachers. And in our schools, I think we need to make people feel more welcome. My principal today just shared a story with me that when she was out of school, she was the only Latina, and she felt very out of place and didn't feel welcome. I think we need to work on making sure we're welcomed with everybody. Her solution was to feed everybody and make sure we get together to have meals together. But I think more events where we can get to know each other better would be helpful.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Well done. Always great to have younger people than me involved. Our next question for our candidates vying for this district position, Denver Public School Board District 3. Carrie, we'll start with you. The question is, if elected, you would represent a specific part of the city. How will you balance the needs of your constituents with the needs of the overall school district?
I think that I would bring a unique perspective being a teacher because I am at West Leadership High School in downtown Denver. So I would have the perspective of a large urban high school, but I also own a home in District 3, and I know my neighbors, and I've gotten to know many wonderful people as I've gone door to door, attending PTO meetings, attending community events. So I think the balance will be in listening to what I hear happening in my school and what I know is happening in a large urban district in downtown Denver, but then also what's going on in District 3. I think it's going to be important for me to stay in touch with both groups and hear from all sorts of teachers, attend union meetings, understand what teachers who are part of the union are concerned about, and listening to my colleagues and hearing what they have to say.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. It's critically important that everyone on the school board support all students in Denver Public Schools, but we have a unique structure in Denver where we're the only district in the state where school board members are actually elected from separate districts, and only the people in those districts vote for them. So given that structure, one of my primary responsibilities is to stay in touch with the schools and with the students and with the parents and then with the community in my part of town. I've attended literally hundreds of meetings in my part of town, listening to people, updating them on what Denver Public Schools is doing and answering their questions. You can find 130 pages of answers to questions on the website from all of those meetings. Critically important that I bring the perspective of District 3 to the school board, but when we make decisions, we have to make them in the interests of all of Denver's students and all of Denver's parents.
All right. Thank you, candidates. One more round of pre-submitted questions, and Eric Webb did such a great job. Eric, you want to come back up for one more question? And again, Eric is with the Mayor's Youth Commission.
Thank you. Do you intend to continue the trend towards charter schools? Why or why not?
I think we're starting with Mike first. Mike first.
So my first priority on the school board is to make sure that we have great schools for kids, access to schools that really make a difference in kids' lives. I think we have great quality schools, as I said, in East Denver, in our neighborhoods, and we have great choices. Some of those are charters, some of them are innovation schools, some of them are traditional public schools. I care about how the schools educate students. I don't care about the school model. Interestingly, when we approved 2 schools last year, this current board, we had charters, we had traditional schools, we had innovation schools vying for those positions, and we as a board selected 2 district-run schools, not charter schools, who are competing for them.
Thank you. I think that some charter schools are working well and are experiencing a lot of success, and kids are happy there and thriving. But I'd like to see us take a pause, as I mentioned in the beginning, and let's assess what's really working. I'd like to see better transportation choices for children who'd like to attend charter schools. I'd like to ensure that charter schools serve all students. I know that's our policy as a board, that they serve English language learners, special needs students, kids who maybe don't have a hard time getting to school on time, but sometimes they feel like they don't belong in the charter schools. So I'd like to ensure that we have practices that make sure all students feel included. I'd also like to see better communication with the parents, making sure that parents understand, and the families, what their choices are when it comes to charter school. I'd also like to ensure that the teachers are highly trained in charter schools and they can best meet the needs of the students.
Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, and thank you, Eric. Nice job. Let's move on to round 6. That brings the final round of the pre-submitted questions for our candidates vying for School Board District 3. And our question is, should there be a number or percentage that the school board is looking to reach in the number for schools? For example, 25% traditional, 25% innovation or magnet, and 50% charter. And we are starting with Carrie.
I think the percentages aren't as important as how well they serve the communities. I think that our first choice for every neighborhood should be a strong neighborhood school that meets the needs of the families that live there. Arts education, physical education, lots of options should be the first choice. I am at an innovation school that is doing wonderful things for students, so I think some innovation schools meet the needs of students. For example, our school has advanced placement classes for students who traditionally are not served by AP, and we're the only school in the nation we can find that has advanced placement classes for our population. So I think the percentage isn't as important as the type of schools that the communities need. We have to look at the communities and talk with them and find out what the parents and the students want who live in those communities.
Okay, thank you. And Mike?
So when I walk door to door in my neighborhoods in East Denver, what I hear is that people want quality schools, and they don't care what percentage is a different form of organization. There are all different kinds of ways to organize schools. As you probably know, we on the board have been working hard the last few years to try to give our traditional schools some of the flexibilities that charter schools have. What people in my neighborhood care about is having a great school. I think it's great that we have schools that that encompass neighborhoods that kids can walk to, and I don't care whether they're charter schools or whether they're traditionally run schools, so long as there's schools that really serve the kids in those neighborhoods. I also think it's critical that we have options so every kid can find a school that really fits them, and a lot of those options are charter schools, and a lot of them are district magnet schools, and a lot of them are just district traditional schools that have special programs, for example, George Washington and the IB program. And there are a lot of different ways to do this. I don't care about any particular proportion.
Okay. Thank you, candidates. You can kind of take a little breath now. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to do something called the lightning round. And so this is fun. This will get your blood going. You can only answer yes or no. No background, no deep dive, no explanation, just yes or no. And we're going to just go in ballot order back and forth. Okay? Nope, they just get yes or no.
Okay.
No timing. It's going to be too quick.
So we say really long yeses.
That's right. All right, here we go. There are currently 44 high schools in DPS. Is that a good number?
Yes.
Yes.
Should all students, parents, or guardians be required to know the names and contact information for school board members?
Yes.
Yes.
Should funding for the arts be increased in all schools?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
According to teachers and students, cell phones are a distraction in many classrooms. Should DPS create a district cell phone policy to lessen the impact?
No.
Yes.
Should DPS accept large-scale advertising on school buses as a source of revenue?
No.
No.
Do you think the influence of social media, in other words, technology, might be making students more inattentive in class by lowering their attention spans?
No.
Yes.
Should DPS be doing more to improve nutrition for students?
Yes.
Yes.
Should school board meetings be held out in the districts versus downtown at the administration building?
Yes, out in the districts, if I understood the question.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Let's give our candidates a big round of applause for the lightning round. So for the
Say
next
yes or no.
couple of minutes, we're going to be giving the candidates an opportunity to ask questions of one another. So each of you will ask your opponent a question, and hopefully they'll have an answer for you. We will reverse the ballot order and begin with Mike Johnson. Mike, you will ask Carrie one question, and Carrie, you have 1 minute to answer.
Thank you.
Carrie, at several of our joint appearances, including tonight, you've criticized school choice and stated that school choice has increased segregation. DPS actual school enrollment statistics show that since DPS launched its unified citywide school choice program in 2012, the percentage of students who attend segregated schools in Denver has decreased by 27%, from 42% to 30%. How do you reconcile your statements that choice has increased segregation with DPS's actual enrollment statistics showing that choice has decreased segregation?
So one of the things that I've noticed is when we talk about numbers, we sometimes tend to forget the individuals behind that. So the reason why I have such a hard time with choice is from my personal experience. I have watched children whose schools have been closed or whose options have been limited because new schools have been opened and others children have left there and the schools have been left behind. So I still think choice is good. It is good to have options, but not at the expense of strong neighborhood schools. And when I hear this, I think of images of children. One of my former students is sitting here tonight, and I think of the school that we both attended at Kepner and what happened when that school was dismantled from the strong neighborhood school that it was, that had programs but needed more resources. So that's how I reconcile that stance.
All right. Thank you. Now, Carrie, it's your turn to ask Mike a question, and Mike, you have 1 minute to answer.
Mike, a seat on the school board is a political position. Either you oppose out-of-state dark money from groups such as DFER, CFER, Stand for Children, Raising Colorado, or you do not. Silence can be a powerful weapon. Tactic acceptance of politicizing signifies your approval of their tactics and funding, including DFER's relationship to Betsy DeVos. Please state your opinion of these groups and explain why they are so interested in funding your re-election campaign for the board.
I'm completely opposed to everything in the Trump education agenda, and I think Betsy DeVos is the worst Secretary of Education who has ever been appointed. I think she should be removed. It's unfortunate that in our current political climate, money comes into campaigns all over the country from sources that are not accountable. I think it should all be reported. It should all be clearly stated where it comes from. And in this race, it's coming in from both sides. It's not one side. We don't know what's happening on our side. They will claim they don't know what's happening on their side. As I said before, all I can control is what I do with my campaign. I pledged not to accept PAC money. I've pledged not to accept corporate money and not to accept money from PAC-like small donor committees, only from human beings.
All right. Thank you. And another round of one-on-ones. And Carrie, we'll start with you with your question for Mike. And Mike, you have 1 minute.
Mike, I'm wondering if you could share with me the definition of equity and equitable practices in education and share an example of what those mean to you.
I think equity in education means that we provide all students what they really need to succeed. One of the number of things that I believe need need to be done in Denver Public Schools, some of which we've already done in order to create equity, is to allocate resources to help the students who need the help most. And we currently allocate approximately 30% more money to children in poverty compared to children who aren't in poverty. I think we need to get our best teachers in front of the students who need their help most. And I really would like to pay those people more to encourage them to do that. We need to get our best principals in those schools. We need more teachers, and we need more principals who look like our kids. And we need to get low-income students and students of color into advanced courses, AP, IB, and concurrent enrollment courses.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mike, your turn to ask Carrie a question. And Carrie, you have 1 minute to answer.
Carrie, until recently, a Denver teacher who was let go from a DPS school could be placed in another DPS school, even if the personnel committee and the principal at the second school did not want her or him. This practice is known as forced placement. Today, we have mutual consent, which means no teacher can be placed in a school without the consent of the school's personnel committee and the principal. I support mutual consent. As a school board member, would you have voted to authorize DPS's general counsel to fight against forced placement in court?
That question leads, I think, to my association with the union. I believe, as I'm sure Mike does, in due process. It's really important for teachers to be able to have due process when they're teaching, when something comes up. And I do believe that we need quality teachers in every classroom and teachers who are meeting the needs of all of our students. Having just heard about this question right now and how I would vote, I would say that no, I wouldn't. But I think that there's other solutions that we can work together with the union to find ways to have quality teachers in our classrooms.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Now we're going to move on to our closing statements. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for your closing statement, and we'll reverse the order of the opening statements, which means, Mike Johnson, we'll begin with you. You have 90 seconds to give us your closing statement.
Thank you. I've kept the promises I made when I first ran for the school board 4 years ago. Our neighborhood schools in East Denver are the best in the city, and our students have access to one of the widest variety of educational options anywhere. We expanded early childhood education so that today every Denver 4-year-old has access to preschool. We increased funding for arts and music. We shifted more resources to our schools and cut the size of the central office. We publish school-by-school budgets so you can see where every dollar is spent in every school. And I've attended hundreds of meetings in East Denver to listen to you and answer your questions. If you vote for me, you get a school board member with a proven track record, an expert in school finance, and the only member of the board with that expertise, and a school board member who will always put the interests of students and parents first.
Okay, thank you. Carrie Olson, now you get your chance for 90 seconds on a closing statement.
Thank you. As a board member, I will see how the policies and the decisions that we make on the board are carried out in the schools and provide invaluable feedback to how they're working. Every day I see the firsthand effects of some of our current board policies that do not always help our students succeed. I want to change that by listening to you, the students, the parents, and the community of District 3 and all of Denver Public Schools. I want to be the bridge between the board and our schools. I want to be your board member. Now it's up to you to decide who will do a better job of representing our students, our families, our teachers, and our schools. Tonight you heard from a lawyer and a teacher. As a teacher, I believe I'm the best candidate for District 3 because I care passionately about Denver Public Schools and quality education. My successful 33-year career as a teacher has proven that I can listen and respond to the ever-changing needs of students and their families. Completing my master's and PhD demonstrates my passion for education and my ability to work hard to understand complex ideas that will improve our schools for all of our children. However, I have one area where I need your help. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are coming in to this school board race. I'm running a grassroots campaign. With your help, this race can be about the person best qualified to serve our families and students in Denver, not the money. With your help, this race can be about safeguarding the bedrock of our democratic principles, not about who has the deepest pockets. My name is Carrie Olson. I'm a DPS teacher running in District 3, and I'd love your vote in this election. It's time to put an educator on the Board of Education.
All right. Thank you, candidates. That was fun, wasn't it?
Thank you.
Now it's the audience's turn. Let's show our appreciation to the candidates for their hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We want to acknowledge and thank students from the Mayor's Youth Commission who submitted questions for this candidate form. Eric Webb and Jarre Jallo will be joining us shortly. And our thanks also to the Denver Decides partners, which include Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation and the League of Women Voters of Denver. Denver Decides is presented by Denver 8 TV. Remember, the election is Tuesday, November 7th. Let your voice be heard. Be sure you register and be sure you vote. For complete election information online, go to denverdecides.org. I'm Tamara Banks. Thanks for joining us.